And with that, we are going to now transition to our final panel of the day and also the final panel of the assembly. It's really amazing how fast the time has gone, really. Um, I want to welcome this outstanding group of leaders who are presenting on this panel, What's Ahead? Collective Action for Climate Justice Part 2. And as I mentioned before, it's really the same panel, but we wanted to have more leaders speak on this topic since it's so important. And I want to thank all of the panelists who are here for your vital work and leadership. And I do ask for patience from our audience. If you have been with us today, as I'm going to share again the introduction to this panel, because as I said, this is part 2 of the panel, and there are new speakers here who've been in the green room or not with us, and I want them to hear the framing of this conversation so we all come together in the same space. So thank you for that. Climate justice reminds us that it's not just a crisis of carbon, it's a crisis of exploitation. It demands that we center the leadership, wisdom, and sovereignty of frontline communities, Indigenous peoples, Black and Brown communities, workers, youth, and women in all of their diversity who have long been resisting the extractive systems that brought us to this point. It's these communities that have the most at stake, but also the most to teach the world about real solutions, resilience, and transformation. As we discuss what lies ahead on the path to COP30 and beyond, this panel is about more than ideas, it's about action. The kind of bold collective action that builds power from the ground up, that holds governments and corporations accountable, and that insists on justice, not someday, but right now. This work is becoming ever more urgent in the context of a global rise in authoritarianism, where repressive governments are criminalizing dissent, attacking land defenders, rolling back environmental protections, and silencing movements for justice. These regimes are deepening the crisis while closing democratic spaces for those fighting to stop it. It's a stark reminder that climate justice cannot be separated from the struggle for democracy and human rights. And the window for meaningful change is narrowing, but there is still time to choose a different future, one grounded in care, equity, and ecological balance. And on this panel, we are joined by powerful leaders who are doing this work, organizing, mobilizing, resisting, and reimagining. And together, we're going to explore how we build solidarity across borders and sectors, and how we ensure that climate solutions are not only effective, but just. And let's be clear, we're not here only to manage the crisis, we're here to transform the systems that caused it. And this includes not only our fighting spirit, which is so important, but also our joy and all of our wild imaginings, that we can bring all of ourselves to this moment, because it's going to require that. And with that, I want to introduce the esteemed speakers, but before we start, we're going to show a short video of some of these women in action. So first, we'll be hearing from Jackie Patterson, who is the founder and executive director of the Chisholm Legacy Project from Turtle Island, the USA. We're so honored to have her here. Then we'll be hearing Shirley Krenak from the Krenak people, founder of the Shirley Krenak Institute and co-founder of the National Articulation of Indigenous Women Warriors of Ancestry, ANMIGA, from Brazil. And we heard some of her colleagues in an earlier session this morning. So glad you could be here with us, Shirley. Then we'll be hearing from Natalia Greene, who is the Global Director of the Global Alliance for Rights of Nature, or GARN, who is from Ecuador. And I'm so glad you could be here, Natty. We had a session yesterday on rights of nature, which was really amazing, a full session. And so we wanted to bring that topic back up again in this context. And again, I'm really honored to be on the executive committee for GARN and having worked with Natty for many years. And then our final speaker is the wonderful Casey Camp-Horinek from the Ponca Nation. We're so honored that you could be with us, Casey. Casey started us out at the beginning of the assembly with an incredible opening and really helping to set off the assembly in a good way. And we're very thankful that you can close the assembly for us. Casey is the chairwoman of the Indigenous Council of the Global Alliance for Rights of Nature And she's also the environmental ambassador for the Ponca Nation. And we're so honored to have her on our WECAN board and also one of our project coordinators, which you'll be hearing about when she has time to speak. She is from Turtle Island. And with that, we're going to go ahead and start this video, and then we will move to our first speaker. Thank you.
How will the future generation look back on us? Are they going to say that we were the healers? We were the warriors that stood up for them so that they may live.
In this time of colliding crises and failing infrastructures, worsening climate disasters, I do believe we have a time to act, to ensure a fast, fair, and equitable phase out, and ensure a planet for current and future generations.
A recent report by the UN Environment Program found that governments still plan to produce more than double the amount of fossil fuels in 2030 than what would be consistent with limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. Since the signing of the Paris Agreement, the world's 60 largest private banks have provided $5.5 trillion in financing to the fossil fuel industry. We cannot continue with these disastrous numbers.
The fossil fuel industry has hurt us for far too long, both in the terms of emissions, but also causing a lot of wars and militarization.
And when we talk about the impacts of oil and gas and why we need a phase out of oil and gas all across the globe, is because this is not just about the reduction of emissions at source. This is also about the reductions of the harms and the violence Indigenous peoples have felt on our lands and our bodies and our communities.
It's crystal clear. We need a concrete, binding plan to end the expansion of new coal, oil, and gas projects and manage a transition away from fossil fuels. Nation states are now calling for a fossil fuel treaty, an equitable and wind-down plan for how to manage the wind-down in a way that leaves no country or community behind.
Kick polluters out! Kick polluters out! Kick polluters out! Kick polluters out! No climate justice without human rights! No climate justice without human rights! No climate justice without human rights!
Nós, mulheres, precisamos continuar avançando juntas. E juntas estamos aqui também para apresentar soluções.
Whether it's on the front lines of resistance to fossil fuels, protecting and replanting forests, creating food sovereignty networks, or advocating for transformative climate policies, women are leading the way. It is code red for humanity, and we're drawing a red line to say no more to sacrifice people and no more to sacrifice zones.
We need to decolonize these spaces because, if the planet is still alive, it's because we, the women, are taking care of our lands.
The message is quite clear. Feminists, frontline activists, frontline women, Indigenous peoples have long had the solutions, are advocating for these year in, year out, and it is time we heed to their leadership because we have long run out of time.
E viemos fazer clamor. Não há possibilidade de barrar as mudanças climáticas sem considerar os territórios como solução número 1. Pela terra, pelas águas, pela floresta de pé, não podemos derramar sangue indígena no chão.
We're enacting things in the Ponca territory like the rights of nature because we know that we as human beings are not separate from nature. But at this moment, we are nature protecting itself.
Okay, a little bit of energy hearing from one of the COPs where we were advocating with our incredible delegation and work there in the field. And with that, I'm really honored to invite Jackie Patterson to take the floor. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be here, as always, with WECAN and with you, Osprey, and your whole team, and with all of you. I've been here to hear the speakers before for a few hours, and it's just been inspiring as always. So I am actually in Jamaica, where my dad's from, where it's my happy place that I come as often as I can find a few days to do so. And it was interesting arriving as I was waiting for to get on the shuttle bus. There was a young man who's probably maybe 22 or so. And he asked me what I did. So I said I do work on racial justice and climate justice and so forth. And so when I said to him about Black liberation, and he goes, huh, well, so what exactly does that look like? And so I explained it a little bit to him, and then he said, oh, well, that would never work here. And I'm like, oh, well, tell me more. And he just kind of indicated that he didn't think that people would work together in that way. And he talked about how other countries own everything in Jamaica and how the government isn't pushing back. And and so we kind of kept talking about this and and then he said at one point, kind of looked at me like a little challengingly, like he thought I might push back. He said it was the US that destroyed our economy in the first place. He said Jamaica used to have a stronger economy than the US, and the US didn't like that. And so they came and destroyed the economy. And I'm like, yep, yeah, that's pretty much what we do. And so then he went on to talk about how, and so I was talking about the work that we do around working with communities around cooperation, self-determination, local self-reliance, et cetera. And then again went back to that wouldn't work here. He said every other culture but Black people know how to cooperate, but we just fight against each other. I mean, it was a very, kind of sobering conversation to know. And he was saying all this with just such a level of confidence, but also sadness and also anger. It was just an interesting mix of emotions. So then I said, yeah, well, that was, we were socialized against that. We were actually originally our culture, originally our actual culture is one of cooperation, but, with the colonialization and with the enslavement of our people, that was driven out of us in a very, and yes, the people still sustain that, and you're not necessarily seeing it, but there are people who do still hold that culture. And he agreed. He said that is true. He said that they beat that out of us. Every time we tried to help each other, they beat that out of us. And this was all just yesterday. And so I really sat with that after having come from being in Bonn at the Intersessional and having conversations with the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative, where we were celebrating our unity. We were celebrating the organization, and we were talking about, as we said, what's ahead. And then also in another meeting of the Climate Action Network, it was the same kind of thing, talking about us coming together and what's ahead. And it was even during that meeting, I also anyway, what kind of struck me as I had this conversation with this young man is that it just brought me back to the various, like there's the folks who are organizing, and then there's the folks who aren't a part of the organizing, and uh and every day when I'm going out in communities, I'm seeing those two worlds, and it brought me brought to what's ahead of us in terms of needing to ensure that we find ways to have everyone to have pathways to that tent of oneness, that tent of we-ness that we're trying to bring together. So with that, I really wanted to talk a little bit about globalization and in the context of what I heard from everything that you've already said today, and like the two parts of this globalization notion that we're part of a global ecosystem, and we're all kind of swimming in the same river, and there is that interdependence and that need for cooperation for us all to move forward. And then we also know that it's true that globalization has been the tool of the extractive economy. And in the words of Audre Lorde, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And as we've all seen, we can't, and we've talked about it time and time again already, we cannot tweak a system that was designed to concentrate wealth and power in the hands of a powerful few. So people say to be an effective organizer, you have to be grounded in the reality, and that we always have to hold simultaneously a thorough understanding of the world as it is, which we definitely were grounding in today, and the world as it should be. And it sounds kind of simplistic to put it in those terms, but it is a pushback that we have to really present against people who think that we're wasting our time talking about Article B of this text or Article 9 of this text, or engaging in the negotiations at all, which some people think are a waste of time. People thinking they're going to the annual general meetings of these big corporations to push for change is a waste of time, because this is like continuing to perpetuate the system as it is, but it is the system as it is. And it's a system that we're all living in. So it is important for us to do so in order to both chip away at the system as it exists and weaken it, to mitigate its harms as we live under it from day to day, and to also really get to know the system from the inside out and be able to assess its vulnerabilities well enough to be able to take it down, to dismantle it. But at the same time, we're also, as many have said already, starting to embody the world as it should be. For one, because we can't dismantle the plane while flying in it. And so obviously we at least have to have a parachute in order to do that. And we also know that from what everybody else has said, that the world as it should be is this new economy that is new for most of the people who are on Earth now, but it is the old way of being. Really, it's a return to the original, to the traditional way of being for Black folks, for Indigenous folks, and other peoples, in terms of culturally. As others have said, it's about cooperation, about caring for the sacred, about self-determination and local self-reliance, both at the community levels and in terms of advancement of truly sovereign nations. That was another thing, being the young man we're talking about, because I was saying, well, what about, isn't, I just read in the headlines that Jamaica is fighting for reparations from the British. He just kind of rolled his eyes. But anyway, and he started talking about Burkina Faso, and I thought, oh, well, I need to read up on that. But anyway, but really, as we were talking as a Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Alliance about how, as nations, the formal bonds of colonialism might have frayed a bit, but that so many of our nations are still being governed by the chains of financial dependence, particularly, as someone was saying earlier, with the multilateral financial institutions and their what they do to the nations. And so we've been talking about what it looks like to actually have governments to rethink what it means to be a sovereign nation. And so this is something I know that folks are working towards in different ways. The Ethiopian proverb says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. And as so many others who have spoken before us have demonstrated, if we come together and we combine our power, we know we can dismantle the extractive economy. We've already seen folks who are fighting for better ways within the system and fighting for new systems. We were just with IWS in Germany fighting for immigration justice, and included in that fighting for it now, but also the view towards no borders. The Articulate of Black women's organizations in Brazil fighting for land rights. WECAN and its partnership with Indigenous women fighting for energy justice. The Jamaica Fight for Reparations, the West African Climate Finance Network, advancing transformative approaches to community control and regional collaboration. Again, not this kind of North-South dynamic that we continue to have. And in a small democracy win within the belly of the beast, and a win for true democracy in the U.S., Zoran Mamdani, the presumed new mayor of New York, who our current president labeled as, quote unquote, a 100% communist lunatic, has an agenda that includes free bus service, free childcare, government-run grocery stores, a rent-freeze for people living in rent-regulated apartments, and a new affordable housing, all paid for by raising taxes on the wealthy. So this is, again, glimmers of us heading in the right direction. And just to kind of in closing, as a movement, we know that we are stronger than the opposition when we pull together. When all those voices, all the leadership that's been embodied on this call, if we're all coming together, and thank goodness for WECAN and pulling us together here. If we continue to collaborate, we can win this. Again, as the Ethiopian proverb says, when spiders unite, they can tie up a lion. And truly, this autocracy, this authoritarian global regime is that. We are smarter than the opposition. As Colette said, our best weapon is our heart, our care, our love for the planet and for each other. So even as we fight against anti-care regimes, we're caring for each other. Even as we live under authoritarian regimes, we are advancing new systems of cooperative governance. Even as they try to surveil us, we go dark. They tried to take away our social safety net, but Black and Indigenous folks are the originators of mutual aid, so we are here for each other. They tried to cut our microphone, and we pulled out the megaphone. They tried to restrict our movements, and we revitalized the Underground Railroad. They foment hate, and we counter with love. They tried to bury us, but we continue to sprout because they didn't know that we are seeds. I'll truly close in the words and the rhythms of Sister Tafara Muhammad. Not a singer, but I'm going to try. So here we go. We are the children of the ones who did not die. We are the children of the people who could fly. We are the children of the ones who persevered. We are fearless, we are strong, and we're ready to carry on. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie. Throwing it down, singing us a song. Yes, I love it. Thank you for your powerful words. There's just so much in what you said. And just the hope that you bring us is so deep and rich. I can feel my spirit being lightened just by your words. Thank you so much for everything that you said and the hard work that you're doing. And just for folks to know that we're putting Jackie's information and her incredible organization that she founded in the chat for you to learn more. And we're going to do a round of conversation after this. So we'll come back because I wrote a bunch of notes about some questions to ask you. But yeah, thank you so much for your analysis and the beautiful presentation. And with that, I'm going to hand the floor to our dear sister and leader, Shirley Krenak. And just a friendly reminder to folks about your translation button at the bottom, because she will be presenting to us in Portuguese. Shirley, welcome. We love you. You have the floor.
Mudo. Olá, estão me ouvindo?
Yes,
Okay.
all is good. We see you, hear you.
Antes de tudo, eu gostaria de
Before anything, I'd like to thank the presence of everyone, all these women from the earth, all these women who are tree, all these women who are water that are here today. And to say that this is a moment that is very important for us women from around the world. I would like to ask Mother Earth and Father Water to guide my words to the universe. I have this habit of first to ask before I start my talk.
Tikonya jikura ina ina takruk tek tek tupi ina nimparen makiam nimparen makiam nimparen makiam Tikonya jikura ina ina takruk tek tek tupi ina
Thank you. I'm very happy today because today is my daughter's birthday. So at the same time that I'm celebrating my daughter's birthday, I'm celebrating it with you women, women of light. And there's no more pleasure than being a woman of life as we're doing, as we share our work and our vision. I am a woman, Earth. I'm from the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil, from the biome of Mata Atlântica. It's not very much spoken by you, this biome, and it's not much remembered by people. And I bring the potency of my biome because it's within this biome that I practice my action. I don't live only in spirituality, I live in action. So I work with spirituality and action 24 hours a day because I plant trees. I restore territories that have been destroyed by all this vision of globalization, of all this globalization that doesn't connect to the vision that we are working in this panel today, for example. And our responsibility as women of trees who are planting, I'd like to emphasize, especially in this moment that I'm speaking, that we're talking a lot about climate issues. We're talking a lot about body. We're talking about projects, alternatives, because these are talks of policies of construction that for me, they are in a process of construction, but they're in a process that is trying to spread and fool our minds. And I'm saying that us women, we're the sacred connection between the earth and the land. And whenever the world is going through difficult times, we always show up. This being woman, we come, we show up. This being brings a global perspective. And when I say global, I'm talking about the universe. I'm talking about universal, of how to bring this balance back again. However, this territory body of woman, of being a sacred woman, sometimes is tired too, and sometimes has issues too. So, women, to give you this important information, if we're talking about globalization, justice, climate, for us to talk about actions, mitigation, we need to also talk about our self-care, of taking care of ourselves, because or else we won't be able to advance in this perspective of avoiding the extinction of the humanity. So this thing that I want to share with you all and myself as well is that we need to look inside ourselves, because lately this energy that has been changing the world has been making people with a very large egos. So people grow their egos, but they don't grow in their actions for the earth and for the waters. So we need to take care in this for about the spaces that we're walking. We need to take care about the lights that are shining on us. We need to take care when about the way that we talk in these spaces, because sometimes they forget that they're land and water in this planet. And this is something that I want to tell you to us women and warriors, that we need to be careful with this space that we are working, because the system is a policy that is not adequate. It's a policy that rapes, that violates our rights as women, as trees that are planted in this territory. So we need to look for actions that can also connect us and bring us in this global and collective way to work for justice that is done as we see it, that is done as we feel it, that is done as as our foundations. And this is my message today. So in this process of living and looking for collective actions to avoid the extinction of humanity, I want to bring a perspective that's about restoration. And when I talk restoration, I'm talking about environmental issues. Here in my country and in my state, I fight a lot against mining. I have a very hard work against mining, and sometimes I'm very criticize about this way that I go against the mining companies. But why do I hit so hard? Why do I punch the tables when in these mining companies? Because mining, once again, repeating this, mining is to build wars. Mining is to kill people, it's to kill children. And this is what mining is for, is to kill rivers, trees, lands. And this is what I'm suffering here. This is what I'm going through here. I live in a region that is highly impacted by mining. I'm here talking that my people doesn't drink from the rivers, they don't fish in the rivers. The children, they don't take baths in the rivers anymore. We don't practice this spiritual rituals in the water. Why the world and these peoples that aren't spiritualized, when they hear this word spiritualize, and I heard in the other panel these issues about spiritual issues, and I thought that was very interesting because people have been forgetting this. The spirit and the body, this is all disappearing, and it's starting to become destruction. So we need to be aware of that, because or else other peoples, other countries are going to go through what I'm going here, because I don't eat fish, people, because I know that there are people that are still able to eat the fish from their rivers, but I don't have this anymore. I have a daughter that I can't teach her the sacred rituals from my ritual. I can't share this with her because this is part of the past. And we're talking about climate justice, we're talking about actions for climate, but here I talk about a river in the past tense. Look how nuts this is. Look at where we are. We're talking and we're doing these actions, but what what are we really as human beings are we doing here? Because I'm talking to you, my friends, about a river that I have in my territory that goes through my entire territory, and I'm talking about it in the past tense. And we are in the 21st century. Something that should be avoided has been even more destroyed, because the bigger this globalization, this political, uninformed, and destructive globalization is, the bigger the destruction of people's spirituality. So I ask for a certain care of you all when you are in these spaces discussing climate justice, because it is necessary to do a bigger to work more to deconstruct this system. And we can't bring these green alternatives about mining, wind power, carbon credits, and everything else, because these actions, they are false actions, because nobody wants to come here with me and plant trees in my territory. Nobody wants to invest in my institution so I can restore territories, because they say that's costly. But for me, it's even more costly to see my river dead, and I'm not able to practice my spiritual practices with my river and my people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shirley. And it's really, I will say I appreciate your words so much. And also I feel the grief. I just feel a lot of grief listening to you and how hard it is to be, on the one hand, celebrating your daughter's birthday, and then on the other hand, knowing that you can't take her to the river and teach her your practices and eat the food and swim in the river. Our hearts break hearing this, and our tears are with you. And and I think it's really important. We've been working over the last week in this assembly to, show the connection between the things that you so well articulated, that, as the world wants to, or efforting to end fossil fuels and move to a clean energy economy, we must not replicate these systems of extraction, so that we see mining in your territory for all the materials needed for the renewables and other development. And it just has to stop. And as you said so eloquently, we don't want to be talking about our rivers in the past. It's too much. It's too big of a grief and too big of a loss. with water being life and people's territories being destroyed. So thank you very much for your presentation and pointing out also that we cannot be perpetuating false solutions. And we'll come back to you as well and hear more from you. And I thank you so much for your effort to restore your lands without, support. You are going forward to restore up against great odds. And we really respect that and hear you and stand with you. And with that, I would like to invite Natalia Greene to join us and bring your perspective to the conversation. Thank you, Natty.
Thank you so much, Osprey. Thank you to my sisters who spoke before me. And thank you, WECAN, for bringing us together in this amazing gathering. I am going to talk about the rights of nature. If you could help me with the presentation. And I'm going to be talking about the growth of this amazing movement and why I think this is a beautiful path to what lies ahead. Because I feel that this grief that we have also felt should be also combined with hope. And I'm hoping that that's what I will be bringing to you all today. So I'll be talking about the rights of nature. And if I'm just going to move my hand up for passing the slides. And I think that we can all agree that we are in a sea of chaos. So I really want to share this quote from Ilya Prigonini that says, when a system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence in a sea of chaos have the capacity to shift the entire system. And I think this is a powerful quote because I think that we all are struggling with what's going on right now. We are all struggling with having hope in this sea of chaos. But I am thinking that by showing and sharing about the growth of the rights of nature movement, I can be telling you how these islands of coherence are reproducing all over the world and hopefully end with that note that we can do something about this together. So why the rights of nature? Well, the rights of nature is a growing movement, is a movement that shares exactly what we've been talking about these days. And it's the idea that nature is alive, that we are part of nature, as Casey was saying in the video that we heard before, that we are nature protecting ourselves, and that nature is alive and deserves to be considered a rights-bearing entity. And a rights-bearing entity that is beyond what we have with environmental law, because environmental law has not been enough. Environmental law has only been telling us how many times we can kill our slave. It's not been telling us nature is not a slave. It's not an object. It's a person that needs to be respected. She's alive. We are part of her. And we need to deeply change our relationship with nature. That is what we need. And by that, what we are bringing with the rights of nature movement, that is a movement that is growing quite a bit. Antonio Guterres in 2019 said that the Earth Jurisprudence movement is the fastest legal growing movement in the world right now. And the idea is to understand that nature needs to be considered a subject of rights. In the Ecuadorian Constitution, and you'll hear that in a bit, we were able to incorporate this in 2008. But what the rights of nature movement is saying is that it is an emerging, powerful global movement that wants to transform human consciousness and to redesign the failing and consumptive economic social structures to create a framework where we live in harmony with nature and that is grounded in the recognitions of the rights of Mother Earth. This is a picture that we took in 2008 where we could all fit in one room, 18, when we could fit in one room while we were celebrating the 10th year anniversary of the Ecuadorian Constitution. I don't think we can fit in one single room, and that's great news because of how much this movement has grown. As I was sharing, we were able to include this in the Constitution in 2008. I was extremely lucky to be part of this process in my country, Ecuador, that really gave the path to this paradigm shift that we are bringing to the world, to this paradigm shift that says, no, nature is not an object that we can exploit. Nature is a subject that we need to protect. And this is something that indigenous people have been saying all along, that we are nature, that Pachamama, Mother Earth, is our mother, and that, of course, this needs to change the modern worldview of the juridical systems that still treat nature as an object. And that is where many of the problems lie. We were able to gather around in Cochabamba, Bolivia in 2010 with this People's Conference for Climate Change and the Rights of Mother Earth, where people came together to say, yes, we need a declaration for the rights of Mother Earth, a declaration that incorporates everyone, people and humans and non-humans, everyone, because we are the earth, we are nature, and we need to be walking towards this new perspective. Later that year, we were able to create the Global Alliance for the Rights of Nature that we are very happy to be sharing this year and hopefully celebrating with many of you during COP30 in Brazil, our 15-year anniversary. This movement has grown now up to 40 countries that have advanced the rights of nature, 22 of them with legal advances, legal meaning either a constitution, a national law, a local ordinance, a riverway rights, an ecosystem rights, so actual legal advances, and 18 of them with projects. So this is something that is moving quite fast. There's an academic article, one of the 18,000 articles that have been written about the rights of nature, a huge growth. Out of what we were researching in 2008, we could only find around 3. Now there's like a huge bibliography about this growing movement, but it's amazing how we keep moving towards these islands of coherence. If you want to learn more about this, we have an eco-jurisprudence monitor that where you can see all these initiatives that are proliferating around the world. And as I see it, they're proliferating as acupuncture points in a world that is suffering, points that are trying to heal the world, where people are getting organized to recognize that nature is indeed a subject of rights. As GARN, we are well organized with our umbrella organization, that is the Global Alliance, with the International Rights of Nature Tribunal, with our Indigenous Council, that will be so happy to hear Casey, who is our leader in that Indigenous Council, and with many thematic and regional hubs where we get together people to educate and move and grow this movement even more. These international rights of nature tribunals have allowed us to have a platform where we hear these cases and we understand that when we have sacrificed zones, we have sacrificed people. And fortunately, these tribunals allow us to give a voice both to those frontline defenders and to nature herself, that is talking in many languages, but of course, not all of them can listen to that language, and we are using these tribunals to bring forward the voice of nature. I want to be sharing that this movement has grown quite a bit with the recognition of rights of rivers. There are right now 44 rivers with rights in the world, one of them passing by my city, the Machangara River, the Trato River in Colombia, the Wanganui River in New Zealand, and the Marañón River that actually allowed Mariluz Cañaquiri, who is an amazing Cucama woman, to win the Goldman Prize this year for her amazing effort to bring the first case of rights of nature in Peru by recognizing that the River Marañón is alive and deserves to have rights. I want to start closing by sharing a couple of stories that hopefully will give us hope about how the rights of nature movement is definitely bringing a solution to this world that we feel sometimes that is so hopeless. One of them is this victory, the intact versus frogs. These 2 frogs were rediscovered in the twin waterfalls. One waterfall extremely polluted by what Shirley was talking, mining. That is a big fight that we're having in Ecuador as well. And the other waterfall was the habitat of these amazing frogs. The Rana nodriza confusa was actually a newly discovered species. The Arlequino cicuda was a rediscovered species. We renamed the nodriza confusa by resistance frog. And this frog, tiny little frog, allowed us to win a case against the second largest mining company in the world. So I'm hoping that this little frog will give us hope that this frog was able to be an umbrella species to save the cloud forest, and to understand that this species can go to court and fight for her own rights together with the land defenders that had been protected intact for more than 30 years. So what's lying ahead? For us to talk about climate justice is to we cannot be talking about climate justice without talking about the rights of nature. I think that by incorporating the framework of the rights of nature, understanding that we need to change the legal systems, and with that, it challenged corporations that are going beyond their limits into nature, taking species into extinction, and that cannot happen any longer. We need to move forward for climate justice with the rights of nature. With that, we have two main projects that are coming ahead. One of them, really important one that is going to happen, especially this year with COP happening in Brazil, a call to declare the rights of the Amazon. This is really important because we understand that the Amazon is a living biome that is so essential for the balance of the weather and the climate in the world. And we need to be understanding that the Amazon has its own rights, its own voice, and that the people of the Amazon need to be being the voice of the Amazon, understanding what is needed for the Amazon without just the puzzle of what is every Amazonian country thinking to do with the Amazon. So this is an important call that we'll be taking this year to Brazil. And another one for sure will be to bring the voice of Antarctica. There's a working group that is working for a declaration for the rights of Antarctica, the silent victim that is suffering the impacts of climate change, and that is allowing us to think about a new eco-governance for these amazing, of course, living biomes. And with that, I would just like to thank you, saying that there is an urgent need to recognize that nature rights, and to reshape how we relate to this planet. So thank you so much, Osprey, for this opportunity of sharing that the rights of nature is definitely a path to move forward in this sea of chaos.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natty, for that excellent presentation and inspiration. And I don't think any of us can forget the image of that little tiny frog that saved a cloud forest. I mean, the smallest amongst us. It's so beautiful. It's really inspiring. And I just wanted to mention to our audience that we were really honored to have Mary Lutz, who won the Goldman Prize, that was in the presentation Natty just gave. She spoke on a panel yesterday, so if people want to hear her story, they can do that. And at that time, we were also talking about an initiative that Casey from the Indigenous Council on Rights of Nature and Natty's engaged in, and others with WECAN around pushing forward this global call for a universal declaration on rights of nature to be equal to human rights. And we're pushing that forward through countries and eventually bringing that to the United Nations. And we can put into the chat a link to that initiative because it's so clear that the world needs rights of nature and we need to respect the natural laws of the earth. So I wanted to just bring forward those different pieces. And with that, I am very thrilled to bring Casey Camp-Horinek from the Ponca Nation into our conversation. And she has, really has her hands in many, many, many different advocacy pieces, from Indigenous rights to rights of nature to doing work on her land, being a leader of Indigenous peoples around the world. And we wanted to start her presentation with a video from one aspect of her work, but we wanted to share this with you because it really helps us get closer to a lot of the voice and call and dreams of vision of Casey Camp-Horinek. So we'll show a video and then hand the floor to Casey. Thank you.
We Ponca are originally from the northern plains, forcibly removed into this territory in 1877. And this was our permanent way of being. This Mo'ite, this woman's home, this lodge, is a place that hasn't ever existed in this form, in the physical form, in this southern Ponca life.
We had always been taught that at one point in time people are going to look back to those of us who have that memory, that blood memory with this particular piece of the earth to teach you, to guide, to give gentle lessons in good ways about how to reconnect with where you are now.
This whole area around here, just within an acre or two, is going to feed so many. It's going to take care of so many ceremonies will help us to become whole again. It is the lodge that the woman cares for and passes on to her eldest daughter. And that's the way it's always been.
So from the very setting of the poles, which were done in a ceremonial way, to us going back and changing the way that it had originally been planned to be built, with WECAN's support, we were able to do that. It's been a community effort, a family effort to really get it going. We want it to be here for a long time. My mom never saw one here. My grandma never saw one here. And my granddaughter and my grandson will never not know a Ponca Earthen Lodge. It's always going to be part of their history.
There'll be lots of food stored inside the Earthen Lodge, as well as food grown around the Earthen Lodge and medicines as well. So we're excited for all of the cultural reasons, the spiritual reasons, the healing that this lodge is bringing to the Ponca Nation and the surrounding tribes and everyone who's been involved in this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful building of the lodge. But it's also going to be a place where we can ensure that people have a place to be for safety and shelter and home during the times that are coming. We've been really honored as the Women's Earth and Climate Action Network to do a lot of research on the different traditional seeds that have been grown in this area and kept by the Ponca Nation for generations. So there'll be raised beds that are right next to the Earthen Lodge. Some plants are actually grown on top of the Earthen Lodge. So this will also be a place where the women can grow their food, grow their medicines, and share them with the community.
These small places of healing and medicine change the whole vibration of those who come in contact and get to come inside and see that there is a way forward. We can live in a good space and be responsible citizens of the earth. The dream is the earth telling us again and instructing us again how to live and how to be in a place that is what they call circular economy, or a reciprocal way of being.
And with that, Casey Camp-Horinek, you have the floor. Thank you.
Natalia, Ponca, Ponca, Oklahoma. Judy is my true name, my colonized name, Casey Camp-Horinek. I'm a Ponca woman from the occupied territory of Oklahoma. And I suppose first, I need to say thank you to the women who have put things together and held this red line for this entire week and more, an entire lifetime. And that would be Osprey, Catherine, Ashley, and many, many more women that I don't know their names. Those are the women of WECAN that I'm honored to be part of. I'm very grateful today also to say thank you to our Mother, the Earth, to our Father, the Sky, to the sacred one here that they call water. I want to offer a little song to her, first of all. She is the reason we all are here, the reason that we have bodies that wrap over our spirits, that put us together as women of the earth, as children of the one mother that we all share. And I'm going to sing just one chorus. The rest I'll sing at home. Ni kanitauzi wiblahamongli, wiblahamongli, wiblahamongli. Ni kanitauzi wiblahamongli. Thank you, and I love you. Well, there are so many things to talk about and to share today. But first, also, I want to mention the women who are on this same panel as I am, as well as the women before. The depth of my relationship with them and with our Mother the Earth and with the healing that we're experiencing is beyond measure. And I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for what you bring. Each one of us being informed from a different portion of Mother Earth, each one of us from a spiritual background that informs us on how to go forward. Each one of us with a story, and we could talk about those things that are wrong with the Earth that we as human beings have participated in. But today we're here talking about what's right, what's forward moving, what's next, and how to link arms and spirits and move into a new way of being, which is also an old way of being, connected to all that is. As a Ponca woman from Oklahoma, I want to tell you how we understood how to be as women. And it informs me on how to share with you on this new way of this web of life. Now it's called internet, or whatever way one can connect all the way around the world in this global assembly. Oh my goodness, what an honor, what an amazing thing to see. And how technology actually has a place in our life is very new to me. It's something that astounds me, and it helps me to understand what my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren also need to be a part of, how they can utilize these ways. I think that if I look back at the original village way of my mother and my grandmothers and the grandmothers before them, it was the women who knew what was needed in the villages, first in their own family, then in the neighbors, then in those around, then those in the village, and then beyond that, and beyond that, and beyond that. We're intimately connected with the food that we eat and the sacredness of caring for that, because if it's not cared for, we're not cared for. If the corn is not healthy, we're not healthy. And how people make a difference in themselves and nature is just beyond my imagination. How do you not understand that that drink of water that I just had is also a drink of water from a glacier, is also coming from the Thunder Nation, has also dripped from the dew of a honeysuckle, and lived inside a eucalyptus, and been part of the desert storms in that one little fragment of water throughout the eons. And when I take that sip, I am also that. How do we separate ourselves from nature and these new ways of looking at who we are and how we are? Well, we don't. We don't accept the colonizers' description of what is that and what is us. It is us. We are nature. As humans, we're a two-legged species that seems somehow to have touched into an ego that makes us feel as if we're something separate. But if we go deep into our spirit, deep into the understanding of the original teachings of each and every one of us, We recognize that we are the species that caretook the lands that we were on. The buffalo didn't destroy the earth where my people lived. The buffalo nurtured the earth. Now they're looking at buffalo as a carbon sink. They're thinking of ways to monetize and privatize the very lives of my relatives. Because the buffalo is my relative. It has sustained life here for as long as there has been life here. We are intertwined eternally in the ways of the reality of the laws of nature. When we talk about the laws of nature, when we talk about the rights of nature, when we talk about indigenous rights, those are one and the same. The laws of nature exist whether we recognize them or not. The wind is going to blow. The breath that we share with all living things and always have is going to continue to circulate around our mother, the earth. And I can't grab that breath and then sell it to someone else, like those ones that look at carbon trading as a reality. I cannot pick up this water and hold her like this because she seeps and flows and goes where she chooses. I cannot buy and sell her. When the fire comes naturally in the ways that it always has, and the wildfires purify the earth now even stronger than ever before, I cannot reach my hand into that. And yet somehow human beings believe that they can suck the oil and the gas and the fire-making elements and buy and sell those too. They're so foolish. They're so foolish. These things are not for sale. The earth herself is my mother, truly my mother. She nurtures me. She built me cell by cell within my mother's womb, within the sacred water. That is the same saline point as the Mother Ocean. And as I was fed those things and built this body within my mother, we became intimate relatives. All of the growing things, all of what the great mystery calls life on our Mother Earth. And we can try to complicate it with human-made laws. Or we can look directly at what is truth and simplify it into the reality of life itself that we're participating in here on Mother Earth. All of us born with an individual spirit, listening to each of these women, listening to Osprey talk and tie all of these into a package that makes sense, was a wisdom that came down and down and down and down and down from their ancestors. And that lives within them because cellular memory is a reality. Quantum physics scientists studied hard to find that out. Kind of tickles me because so much of quantum physics is catching up with what Earth's children have always known, that there is no separation between anything on Mother Earth, and that each of us is born and defined with a spirit that will always exist. But here we are right now in the very crucial moment on Earth on how are we going to be those good ancestors like you and I had, that fought hard, that recognized where they were on Mother Earth was important to caretake, that the food had to be loved and cared for and nurtured and cooked or not cooked, but always cared for, or else it wouldn't be good for us and our children, that the water had to be loved and cared for, not grabbed out of the streams and the rivers, but nurtured and kept clean so that we could go dip our hand in there and have that life-giving substance come inside us. That we couldn't take the strongest of the buffalo or the salmon or the relatives that were offering of themselves to continue life. But we had to take what was offered to us and pray hard. And that brings me back to what sustains us all right now is ceremony. How are we getting this thing called leadership? How are we getting these directions that bring us into a global assembly, that bring us into a time of sharing that will lay out a path in front of us? Ceremony. And what is ceremony? Ceremony should be everything. Ceremony should be saying thank you. Thank you for the life itself. It should be saying we recognize that when the sun is in the sky and warming us and giving us another day to be together, that's a ceremony. It's a way of being. It should be that when we gather in Berlin, it's a ceremony. And that every step, everything that we share today and from this time on is a ceremony. It's part of how we're going to move into this next portion of life on Mother Earth. It's how we're going to be able to define not what the problems are so much, because we know the problems. We're living them. We're living with illnesses. We're living with people whose minds are not right. They don't understand anymore what their ancestors knew always, because they think that that thing called money is real. And that's really hilarious if you think about it. I have a plastic card. I always think about that too. And I pretend that it means something. But what is real and means something is that moiti, that earthen lodge. So far, it's been there for a year and a half. And my family and I have withstood tornadoes in that literally took down all the trees in my yard and all of the gardening and things that we were getting ready to have for this year's stuff we've had to replant. But the Moiti, the original home of the Ponca people, withstood a tornado. And that's not the only one. It's been many tornadoes. And that has created a new way of being for us and the people around us, because people around us come and take part in these things too. The other portion that is real is the food that's being grown there and the ceremonial medicines that are being grown there. These are things that have been part of the Ponca way for as long as there have been Ponca. But yet, after our forced removal, we had to leave those behind and try to come into an economy that was false to us, that we never really understood and exist within a system that was killing us. We have these big petroleum, the ConocoPhillips complex that's near us, that's causing environmental genocide. And I'm not going to go into that with you. I will tell you it exists, and that's why this thing called environmentalism came into my life and my family's life, is to try to sustain my people again. And my people are interdependent with all of those things we just spoke about. The forelegs, the fins, those that fly, those that burrow, those with roots in the ground, those waters that flow. So within our territory, we also have understood that it's necessary to align human law with natural law. And because of the sovereignty and because of the indigenous way of looking at the way that we should define law within our territory. We have been part of the making the first rights of nature, the immutable Ponca rights of nature in our territory. And that's not only going to protect us and all living things there, but all of our neighbors, even those who deny Indigenous rights, because they have children that we love too. We can't forget that even though we may not be walking the same path right now, there's only one path forward, and they're going to figure this out. This is a time, a very, very, very special time of change, of rebirthing the original instructions into a modern day world. And that's why you and I have gathered today. That's why we are going forward with looking back and seeing what worked and bringing that into today's world in a whole different way. That's why we demand of ourselves to set aside the things we might think we wanted to do and instead to warrior up, to take to the streets if we have to be in this loving space like this when we need to nurture one another in those ceremonial spaces that give us back the understanding. We had heard so much about trauma. We'd heard so much about healing in these last years and maybe lifetimes. One of my nieces who has studied this because of death of a child said, you know, I no longer am going to go for this thing of healing and post-traumatic stress and all of that. She said, instead, I choose to adapt to the world that I'm in and to make the changes that are necessary. And then I choose to live in post-traumatic growth. I thought, yeah, me too. I plan on living in post-traumatic growth with all of those things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, all of the silliness of these political human beings that think that by electing someone who accumulates Bitcoin and things that are not even close to real, I'm going to think about the original teachings of the Ponca, and that is to pity them and pray for them. Pity them and pray for them, because they have chosen to be victims to stupidity, to a false sense of understanding what life is. And I know what their legacy is going to be. History has told us when there are those kind of people what their history is. And forever, their family and their generations are going to have to wonder what happened. How did their minds get so twisted and separated from their spirit? How did those bodies that they inhabit, wrapped around the spirit, somehow think that that's all there was them and their ego? But yours and mine, there's going to be a different viewpoint of us, because we're setting ourselves up to live in post-traumatic health, post-traumatic healing, post-traumatic growth. And we're beginning to really understand the clarity of what was said to us by all of these women that were talking before this. Ceremony, 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 ceremony. Step outside yourself, walk around yourself, see what you need. Put your feet on the earth. Breathe in with gratitude. When you take your drink of water, say thank you. When the fire warms you from the Father's Son, be grateful. When the Mother Earth offers you food, say thank you. Because she is our mother. We should take care of her just as she takes care of us. And the words that I wrote down here is what the last people were saying. There is no climate justice without rights of nature. I'm going to add that we should also take the word resource in a different way. Take the RE off of that always in your mind when you hear natural resource. Think about everything as a source of life, as a relative, as a friend, as a close ally to what the future should be. No climate justice without rights of nature. Recognizing that we are nature, just another species. No climate justice without rights of nature. And that rights of nature are Indigenous rights. As Indigenous people, and we all were at some point in our history, as Indigenous people, we recognize that we are nature and that the rights always existed. We can either recognize or deny them, but we cannot grant or give rights of nature. We can only recognize them. I'm asking you to recognize them in whatever form you have to do in every community, first in your heart and then in your mind. And then see how it works to put that into a policy in your neighborhood, in your home, in your country. Allow the earth to inform you what she needs. Yeah. Rights of nature are Indigenous rights. And as WECAN always says, Indigenous rights are a climate solution. That's us. We're the climate solution. So, warrior up. In Berlin, we're going to have an Indigenous Council Day that we're all going to be joining in. There's going to be a tribunal there that looks at all the tribunals that the Global Alliance of Rights of Nature has done. WECAN is going to be on the ground, as well as many, many, many other organizations. I'm hoping that Movement Rights is also part of this. The Indigenous Council is inviting all Indigenous people to be there on that date. I'm certain that those with more skills than I can give you that information and on this web of life that we're talking on. Then I want to just offer this one song, and it's so simple. Hey inaha, udani. It says, my mother, you're good. I want you to recognize yourself in that song. You're the mother of the future. You're the mother of thought. You're the mother of feelings and intuition. The moon guides your rhythms, and you're as true and powerful and deep as the ocean. I want you to recognize the mothers before and the feminine energy in men that needs to be put into the right alignment with the future that we seek. And understand that as we do these things, as we share with one another, as we come together in these sacred circles, these sacred spaces, that we are doing exactly what we've been called to do. We're setting forth a direct path to the future that is healed. That is the way that we're called to by the great mystery. And that path is already there. We just have to walk it. We We have to walk it strong. We have to pull it, everyone, all humans, and help them to feel this, and to understand it, and to know that now is the time, and we can do it together. Hey now, Danny, hey now, hey now, Danny, hey now, hey now, Danny, hey now, hey now, Danny. Enatneo, 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 hey now, Danny. Hey now, Danny. Enatneo, hey now, Danny. Enatneo, hey now, Danny. Enatneo, hey now, Danny. Enatneo, hey now, Danny. Enatneo. We can. Osprey. All of us. All of us. Put your name just where I said her name. Put your name where I said my mother. You're good. You're good. You're strong. You're capable. Let's do this. Weep the ha. Thank you.
Oh, let's all take a deep breath. That was amazing. Casey Camp-Horinek from the Ponca Nation. Thank you for sharing such incredible words and song and wisdom with us. Thank you so much, Casey. I want to be very delicate here because that was very profound and full and brought us into such a good understanding at many levels of many different things. And so I know we need to close out this session. And what I'd like to do is just offer if Jackie or Shirley or Natty had any closing reflections. I did want to make space if you wanted to. We're short on time, just to respect all the different technical issues. Sorry to bring us that logistical point, but I did want to just see if anyone had, a 1 or 2 minute reflection you wanted to offer. Please be welcome to do so. No one is required to do so. I appreciate you all being here. So it's just a suggestion and offering if you had a reflection to close this session out with. We welcome that. And again, thank you so much, Casey, for really helping us land in this moment in a powerful way. So just open it up. No pressure from any of you. If you'd like to, please just jump in. You're very welcome to. Okay, maybe we're complete. That's fine. I just wanted to be respectful of everyone. That was quite a closing from Casey. What an amazing way to conclude our 6 days of the Global Women's Assembly for Climate Justice. I want to thank all the presenters on this final session. It was extraordinary hearing from you, Jackie, Shirley, Natty, Casey. I feel very full from everything that you said. It was just a perfect way to end this 6-day journey. and we send our love and care and solidarity. All of you are women I'm working with, so you're not done with me. We're still all together, and tomorrow's the next day. I'll be calling you for the next thing. So we're all here together. But thank you all so much for this incredible closing of the Global Assembly. And we love you all so much, and we're dedicated, as you know, every day to you. Over the past 6 days, we've been hearing from an incredible group of leaders who are addressing the root causes, struggles, and policies that are at the heart of the climate crisis. Over 125 presenters from 50 countries have demonstrated why grassroots, Indigenous, and frontline women leaders in all of their diversity are central to just and effective climate solutions. And they have shared their visions and strategies for shaping a healthy and equitable world. And let's face it, it's the climate solutions, but we're talking about a new way of living with each other and the earth. This is what we're really calling for. The climate crisis is a result of how not to live. And we are transforming that in our dialogue, in our expressions, in our lived experience, and our advocacy. WECAN has been truly honored to have hosted a gathering of such remarkable presenters and to be with all of you who have joined us from all over the world. I mean, it's been incredible every morning to just hear country after country around the world being represented here. Very exciting. And to all of you who have joined us and the incredible work in your communities, you're all doing tremendous work, all of us collectively together. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank our 70+ organization partners, some whom are live streaming with us and other social media platforms, the amazing interpreters who have just been on this marathon with us, incredible. And last but not least, I really want to lift up our phenomenal organizing team, Jacqueline Duncan, Ashley Gordado, Catherine Quaid, Jillian Lyon, Sophia Lovato, and Summer Sheikh. And these women have been, as they say, in the chair behind the scenes. And I would be very honored if you would all on our team turn on your videos, and maybe we could do that thing where you share everybody at the same time so we can applaud and congratulate your tremendous work, not just for the last 6 days, but this has been an effort since last autumn. So I'm saluting all of you incredible leaders who have been through this, done all kinds of work in every area of this assembly, which it wouldn't have happened without you. So thank you. Together, we're sending a powerful message, all of us, everyone who's listening, everyone who contributed, all the speakers. We're sending a message to governments and financial institutions that enough is enough is enough is enough. It's time to leave fossil fuels in the ground, leave this old way of thinking, leave this exploitation, leave this extractive economy, leave colonization, leave racism, leave patriarchy out. And we need to transition to a clean, just, decentralized energy future, but also a future that looks very different than the one that we're in. And drawing from our ancestors in the past, as people have talked about, ways that we used to know and that some are still living, that we can learn from, that we're building the future that we want. We're creating our own space. Our voices are shining boldly with dignity, wisdom, love, and strength in the midst of horrifying and unlawful violence by state and corporate actors. We're rising to say colonization must end, sacrifice zones and environmental races must end, violence against women's bodies by extractive industries must end, the desecration of Indigenous sacred sites and violations against Indigenous land rights must end, the destruction of the earth and water must end. So let it be loud and clear that we are not going to stop speaking out and fighting. Our red line is to protect and defend Mother Earth, all species, and the very web of life. We are building a future that holds our wildest dreams. And I want us to remember that our ancestors are with us every day. Our many relatives, as Casey said, the ancient waterways, our deserts, our forests, the flowers, the ocean, the mountains, all the different animals, and our magnificent planet. Our goal is to keep building a global women's climate justice action movement. We will continue on with our fierce love for each other, all generations in our earth. So thank you all so much for participating in this assembly and this collective work going forward. Ever onward, ever onward. Thank you, everyone. And with that, we close our assembly, and we're going to go ahead and shut down the live stream and all the different channels we've got going, but you're welcome to stay with us in this Zoom room for those of you that are here. We'll have some closing music so we can have sort of a gentle wind down. You can finish out your conversations in the chat, and we will have time to invite you all to share anything that you want to say from reflections from today. We'd love to hear from you, and we stand together. We're in solidarity, and we're going to continue going on. And again, we will be sharing out all the information from the assembly over the next days on our social media channels, through our newsletter, and we are together. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Jacqueline, let us know when the live stream stops. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Oui,